conscious universe of which there is acknowledgement of particular judgments that come, right? Meaning that, yeah, for every action there's a reaction, and the universe has to, has to balance itself out. There's order to a balanced universe. If there's a conscious universe, then there's order that exists, right? And with that order, we can see evidence of that order by way of judgment. So, yeah, Japan has been messing with the ocean last year or 23, in the cycle of time that revolves around 365 days, whatever you want to call it, right? Yes, so there's a universal law that we know about, the Kabbalion, right? These 7 principles, and one of them is reciprocity, right? So these are universal laws. Japan last year, they turned on a nuclear a fusion reactor that simulates the energy that the sun generates. They did that right here on this planet in Japan. And subsequently after that, billions of fish died. There was a fish die-off in Japan, right? And it also was causing tremors and things of that nature. But they also released the Fukushima radiated water. So Fukushima happened in 2011, right? An earthquake and tsunami hit, and Fukushima was a nuclear reactor on the coast of Japan. It got damaged, right? And it has been leaking radiation ever since, right? It got compromised. And they've been dumping water in the ocean ever since, right? Yeah, shout out to Sister Rhonda, and shout out to the ancestor Mataji, right? She came on Know the Ledge. A few programs we did on Know the Ledge in 2011 and 2012, where we were doing heavy spirit work for the ocean, because the ocean was in a crisis at that time, because the radiation was reaching all the way down to the realm of the ancestors, right? So in the Western pantheon, they say that the bottom of the ocean belongs to Hades, okay, which would be, quote unquote, in the season of Pisces. But in the African pantheon, it belongs to Olokun. And that's where the ancestors dwell, right? That's where the riches are at. So, yes, the water spirits were very upset. This was all the way back in 2011, 2012. So, yes, it's very much still in crisis. And this is what they're calling global warming. This is what they're calling a global climate crisis. They're not speaking about the fact that it's coming from the waters. They're only telling you, oh, mysteriously, the ice caps are melting. Mysteriously, the water's getting warmer. Mysteriously, all of the coral reefs are being suffocated because the algae are growing because of the warm water. Mysteriously, we're discovering new regions because the ice is melting, and we're going beyond the ice wall. Now, not to denote or take anything away from the flat earthers with the ice wall shit. I'm just saying, work in the fact that the ice wall is melting and ice is melting because the water is getting warmer, because they're dumping radiation in this shit since 2011. Okay? So with all of that being said, right, when we get on this 8 frequency, when we get on this justice frequency, right, all of a sudden we see Japan just catching it. It shook up a lot of places on the planet yesterday, but, Japan led the news. Today we see a plane crash, and we're going to see plenty more coming out of Japan. And ironically, Japan got a Godzilla movie coming out later this year. You feel me? So, these are monumental times, man. But getting back to judgment, Israel also suffered a setback because Netanyahu. Now, if you think that Trump and them, Trump is corrupt and Biden, all U.S. politicians, shit, all white men over here is corrupt, right? That's just the way that it seems, right? And the shit just gets amplified when they get in positions of power, and their corruption takes on a whole nother level. But Netanyahu he's on a whole nother level above all of them. So his country been trying to get rid of him. They brought him up on charges, like a Trump, but he was going to court. So he muscled his way back into the presidency, and half of his country was against him. They was riding in Israel before the war broke out because the Israeli government, which were ultra conservatives, were attempting to wrestle the control from the Supreme Court, right? And they were attempting to pass laws that said the Supreme Court can't stop them. Now, if you thought Trump was one thing, because Trump attempted to pad the Supreme Court via appointments, he didn't muscle his way in. He strategically padded the Supreme Court. His presidency or any attempts of a future presidency is going to come down to the judgment that will be levied by the Supreme Court that he helped stack. So he thinks that he's going to get a political favor from these justices because he helped appoint them. And we'll soon find out whether that's true or not. So long story short, what I'm saying is, in order for Trump to become president in this next upcoming election, right, the Supreme Court has to say that the 14th Amendment is not applicable to him, meaning that he cannot be excluded from primary ballots because he's accused of insurrection.